Everybody, my name is Christine, and from Global Education Therapy, today we're going to talk about occupational therapy and does my child need occupational therapy? My name is Christine, and I have been an occupational therapist for 10 years in both the States and internationally. So before we start, we'd like to go over our sponsors and partners. Our first one is Renfrey Educational Consulting. Um, April is a disability inclusion consultant that helps families and schools about how to include kids of all abilities in the system. She also advises parents about how to find the best international schools for your kiddo. In fact, April is going to be collaborating with me in February. She'll be a part of our next seminar about how to find the best international school for your kids' needs. So please stay tuned and go ahead and check that out next month. We're also associated with Hemispheres Academy, Embrace Behavior Change, Sunday Bean, as well as Expat Nest, and some psychological educational services that will have more information as soon as that rolls out. Feel free to check out our sponsors page to learn more about everyone included. We are also associated with Safe Passage and Senia. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. What will we review? So besides going over what OT is, it really is about everything we encompass. So we don't just do writing and fine motor. We also work on daily life skills, like the activities, daily living, executive functioning skills. So like how we think, how we organize, how we sequence actions, but also how it relates to school, which is study skills and organization and whatnot. We're going to go over sensory, self-regulation, emotional control, as well as what else we do, because we do quite a lot, as well as a little short FAQ on what a lot of parents ask me about OT and if their kids would really benefit. So what is OT? So OT is really a service that helps people of all ages really participate and access daily life skills and activities that are important to them. So the two really important terms that we learn in school is the word occupation. What does that mean? No, it's not a job. Everyone's like, oh, you're going to help me find a job? No, I'm not. Sorry. I can help you get the tools to find a job, but am I going to get you a job? Yes, maybe, maybe not. So what that means is a task or an activity that has meaning and purpose to you. So for example, with a kiddo that is a picky eater, eating is a really meaningful task because, one, nutrition and being able to eat and grow and whatnot, but also it's social, like it's being with family and trying new foods, eating at the dinner table and stuff like that. In terms of other activities, we also work on handwriting because that's important for learning, reading, as well as activities that are not so straightforward. So another occupation can be socializing with friends on the playground, or maybe, being able to ride the bike to school or work or things like that. So it also includes lots of like other daily life skills that are more encompassing, a little bit more general and whatnot. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Also, do not feel bad if you don't know what OT is. A lot of people don't. And don't worry, always ask an occupational therapist, what do you do? What is that? Trust me, we are all equipped to answer it because we have all been sort of prepped from school how to explain it. So we'll be happy to tell you. We love to do it. Sometimes we don't, but we mostly do because we have a job that really encompasses really important aspects of people's lives. So the first one, and I think many of you are very familiar with OT in this regard, is handwriting. So that encompasses the fine motor, so ability to use, the fingers, the hand, the wrist, those things. Gross motor, so that also encompasses your core, how you're sitting. So in addition to being able to use your fingers and fingers well and having the strength, actually having the strength core and being able to sit up, to see, to use your elbow, use, good positioning is also important for handwriting as well. Vision, of course, is important. in which you need to be able to see the letters and whatnot, but also visual perceptual. So how your brain takes in information is really important for handwriting. In addition to that, there's also sensory as well with that. So sometimes when kids use, too much pressure, too little pressure when they're writing, sometimes when they have difficulty processing information or they get distracted by, all the kids in the room, like they hear something, those things also impact someone's occupation or ability to handwrite and write and take notes. There's also environmental things like we just discussed, and there are also social and behavioral aspects too. So, if handwriting is hard and it's always been hard for a kid, of course they're going to hate it, or if the school or at home, they're mostly using digital things or, they're not writing a lot, that impacts a kid's exposure and ability to practice writing. So these things are all very, very important. And for handwriting, it's not just, taking notes or writing nice, essays and whatnot. It is also, being able to sign, a signature is important. It's also composing, especially for our older kids, like big essays, planning worksheets, things like that. So handwriting is not just about legibility, it is about the ability to do this task, functional task for school and for life. Fine motor skills also encompass the use of skills of, your hands. So of course, scissors, important for those art projects, utensils, important for feeding, but also dressing as well. So using buttons and zippers and tying shoes, which every OT has, at least in the school and in the community, worked on how to tie shoes and whatnot. Your kiddo may also need OT because, once again, those occupations that are meaningful and purposeful also impact all these activities that you need to live. So, of course, feeding is like a really big one that we work on. We do work with picky eaters. Very similarly to a speech therapist, but the big difference is we do work on some sensory things where we do oral motor swallowing and breathing and that stuff. But, and of course, it depends on the certification of that occupational therapist. But for me personally, I work more on the sensory aspect, the social aspect of eating, and some of the fine motor aspects, such as utensil use. If it's hard to use your spoon and fork and you rather use your hands, but your family isn't keen on using hands, then that impacts feeding as well. We also work on dressing, so putting clothes on and off, shoes, tying shoes, and these really impact morning routines. I think a lot of parents have told me it's super stressful in the morning when the kid isn't able to dress themselves or put the jacket and the shoes, and they need that extra help. So we help out with that. We also work on self-care and grooming. So whether that's brushing teeth, we got lots of kids who hate brushing their teeth, clipping nails, lots of kids who just hate that feeling, don't like to sit still. And for our older kiddos or kids that are growing up, shaving's a big one for both boys and girls, and or those who do not identify. We also work on toileting. So potty training has been a big part of my career. And, we have kids who are scared of the potty. They don't like the sound of the flushing. They have a hard time noticing when they need to use the bathroom. So we do help out a lot with that. Or once again, dressing is a big part. We always say for potty training, it's really important for the kids to be able to communicate that they need to go. They can feel that they need to go. They know the process, the sequencing of how to take off their pants so they can undress, and then the ability to go on the seat, wipe, all those processes. In addition to those activities of daily living, we also work on those IADLs. So the other more encompassing, larger, more holistic daily life skills. So that's like playing and recreation, being able to participate in sports, play with others, things like that. Sometimes traveling, going on a plane, a bus, going out in the community. So whether or not the kid can tolerate going to the grocery store without pulling everything out and making it like a whole fiasco for the parent. That is something we work on too. So I have had parents who are like, how do I take out my kid in the community who may have a meltdown in the grocery store or have just pulls everything out in the pharmacy? Like, how do I make this work? So we do work with kids who have trouble out in the community, responding and acting, and being able to do those errands with their parents, because that's very important. In addition, we do help out with socializing, and normally that's in relation to an activity. So once again, at school, the playing, the recreation, being able to advocate for themselves, be able to communicate and talk with their friends. That's something we work on as well. And once again, we normally work with a speech therapist on this, maybe a psychologist, the school team, or the parents. And of course, sleep. I wouldn't say we're experts at sleep. I would say we help with sleep routines and good strategies and whatnot. However, if you have really, really big concerns about sleep, I do recommend, if your OT can help you, great. But if you need more help, more medical help, more neurological help, of course, consult with your GP or service provider, your pediatrician about that, because there are specific people who can work on sleep. All right. In addition, what a lot of people don't know, in addition to the daily life skills, the fine motor and the sensory, we also work on executive functioning. So this is really typical this is difficult for kids with attention deficits, ADHD, ADD, kids with learning disabilities, speech disabilities, or learning differences. As well as like sensory difficulties, is really being able to do these complex cognitive skills. So that includes following directions, whether you're giving verbal directions, visual directions, things like that, or those daily tasks that, every day we do this routine of going to school, getting your breakfast, or like going to bed. And if your kid has difficulty with those routines they do every day, that's something we can help out as OTs. We also help kids when they have totally new tasks, new routines, especially our kids that, move a lot, go to new schools. If they need help or like understanding a new skill and whatnot, that's something we work as well. We also help kids with prioritizing tasks, so sequencing. So for example, when they're at the school, we do help a lot of kids organize themselves in the desks. So sometimes you have a kid with like all this stuff in their backpack and they don't know where their pencils are. They don't know where their paper is. They forgot their homework, those things. So really teaching them how to prioritize those tasks, how to organize, how to be a part of those routines. So in addition, the big thing we also work on is organization. So whether that's being able to turn in their homework, do their homework, being able to know, okay, let's do this assignment first. Let's make sure we turn this in. Let's make sure our papers are not rumpled into our backpack or locker. That's something we work on as well. So in addition to all the other things we do help kids with just organizing themselves and developing really good strategies and habits for the future, right? Because it is very important for kids to be able to maybe use a checklist or being able to organize their day to do everything that they need to do for the day, as well as, schoolwork. You need that as someone who works in society as well. For sensory, this is a whole different webinar. In fact, we have a webinar about this. So go ahead and check out our webinars page. It's our first one about sensory, to talk a little bit more in depth about what sensory is and how OTs help. But for sensory, once again, we help out with daily tasks in relation to sensory. So for example, for feeding, you do have kids who are very sensitive or cannot sense the food in their mouth or can't tolerate strong tastes and things like that. So we do look, we do help in that regard. We also help with attention. Attention and executive functioning and sensory are all one big bowl together. But in generally speaking, attention does impact sensory and vice versa. And we work on finding strategies, whether that's breathing, being on a yoga ball, maybe doing physical activities, maybe having, things to touch, fidgets, and things like that to help kids with sensory. And once again, this has a lot to do with a kid's ability to tolerate their environment, whether or not they are able to process physical, emotional things in their lives. So the reason why we put motor is that in addition to all the things that impact handwriting and being able to dress, sensory is a big part of that. Because if you cannot sense what's in your hand and what's on your body, it's really hard to gauge how to do that activity. So if you have kids who really have a hard time, like they might cover their ears or they don't want to eat something, or they're very rigid with their routines and they're very inflexible, that's something we can work on as well. In addition to sensory, we also work a lot on behavioral and emotional things. So the big term that we work on is self-regulation. And what that is a child or person's ability to process feelings and emotions and have that self-control to understand what's happening and to, I don't want to say suppress the emotion, but how to act accordingly. So that might be, when a kid is really frustrated, instead of hitting someone or yelling or, not moving or sleeping or just kind of like, slumping and be like, oh, I don't want to do it, which happens. They would have the ability to be like, hey, I'm feeling frustrated. Can I take a break? Or I'm really upset. Can I talk about this? That's what self-regulation is, and that's what self-control is. And that's hard for adults as well, I think. So we do work on self-regulation with adults as well. But essentially speaking, if you have a kid or if you know someone who has emotional outbursts, maybe some behavioral concerns, hitting, kicking, yelling, or just like defiance, like, oh, I don't want to do it. That's something we can work on as well. And how we work on that is, we don't help with like medications or anything. We can help advise and get you the right support, but we really focus on giving strategies. So sometimes that's mindfulness. There's that ability to be self-aware. We do, once again, those sensory strategies. So whether that's a fidget, taking a break, deep breaths, maybe doing some stretches, things like that. We also work on recognizing those emotions, being able to really give power to the kid to choose what type of strategies and tools they need, and then teach them how to advocate and how to really understand themselves so they can communicate what they need at the time. What else can OT work on? What else, can I tell you about OT besides all the information I just gave you? And there's quite a lot. So in general, I would say OTs can pretty much work on everything as long as it impacts a person's ability to participate and access these activities that have meaning and purpose. So for example, if your child is really having trouble with feeding, toileting, things like that, dressing and things, we're really a good fit. Maybe your kiddo is just having outbursts. They're getting, they're not doing well at school. They're having trouble socializing or communicating and things like that. We can help out with that. Educationally, like, they keep forgetting their homework assignments, or they just don't know how to organize an essay, and it's very difficult. We can do that as well. So generally speaking, it's a safe bet to say we can help with a lot, or at the very least, we can help consult and collaborate with the team that your child has to just provide a different perspective. OTs are really trained in looking at the whole picture. In fact, a lot of our theories are based on not just looking at, I hate to say this, but the problem, but to really look at the whole person, what the activity is, and what's the environment. So we're really trained to look very holistically and to help from different points of views. So that's another way how we can help. And in addition, for both adults and kids, we do help with adaptive equipment. So sometimes kids with prosthetics or wheelchair, we can help with finding nice little tools. So like if someone has difficulty with their fingers and they want to make their own food, we do have adaptive tools and forks and silverware and stuff like that. And we also do environmental accommodations and adaptations as well. So, for example, a kid in a wheelchair, we can help with assisting and changing that environment so it is adaptable and works for them. So, ramps, you name it, we work on all those skills as well. All right. So at the end of this, if you're like, hey, maybe my kid needs OT because we're having difficulties with organization, routines, maybe your kiddo has lots of outbursts, maybe your kiddo really has some sensory concerns that you're like, oh, I didn't notice that. What do I do now? So, regardless, I do recommend talking to your primary provider, your primary pediatrician, doctor about these concerns and say, hey, I was wondering, would my kid qualify or can I get a referral for occupational therapy? So talk to your doctor and if they agree, they will give you the referral process and you can start from there. What you can also do is we do free consults. And in fact, the consult will be with me because I'm an occupational therapist and I'm happy to talk it through with you as well. So feel free to go to our website. And in fact, we have 2 buttons. We have lots of buttons for a free consult. Go ahead. It's free, a free 20 minutes. And I'm happy to talk to you and see how we can best help you via online. So overall, I hope you liked today's presentation from Global Education Therapy. Please go ahead and check out our sponsors on our sponsors page. And you have any questions, go to our website and feel free to click the free consult. I'll be there and I'll be happy to meet you via Zoom. Have a great day and looking forward to all your questions.